Hello, YouTube. I will continue telling you about the Soviet and Russian Special Forces, or Spetsnaz. Today, we'll talk about the creation of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, Spetsnaz, and some of its operations. So, for the first time, the issue of creating a separate Special Forces unit came up in the Ministry of Internal Affairs of the Soviet Union in preparation for the 1980 Olympics or Olympic Games in Moscow. The Minister of Internal Affairs of the USSR, Shelokov, was haunted by the failure of the police operation to free the hostages at the 1972 Olympics in Munich, where the entire Israeli team was killed by terrorists, as well as the hijacking of a Yak-40 aircraft at Moscow's Bykovo airport a year later, and the newly formed detachment of special forces, Alpha KGB, well, it was in existence and it was necessary to create something of its own for the ministry, unique, much better, and not only for the protection of public order, but also for their own ambitions, and I'll explain later. So on December 29, 1977, by order of the Minister of Internal Affairs, the 9th Special Purpose Training Company was established in the Special Purpose Motorized Rifle Division of the Interior Troops of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, named after Felix Edmundovich Dzerzhinsky. He was the first head of the secret police in the Soviet Union after the communists took takeover of the Russian Empire. The choice of the 9th Company was not accidental. This was a sports-oriented company, the reserve of the Dynamo, well-known sports club in the Soviet Union, staffed with soldiers who had at least a candidate of master's degree in athletics, gymnastics, boxing, wrestling, and marksmanship. And their level of physical training was significantly superior to that of the rest of the division. It was in the 9th Company, for the first time in the Soviet Union, that the Krapovy beret was adopted as a uniform headdress by order of the Deputy Commander of the Interior Ministry of Air Force, Lieutenant General Sidorov. We're speaking about maroon beret. Sidorov implemented the idea of creating the first special forces of the Ministry of Internal Affairs in 1978 to distinguish them from other units, and he organized the manufacture of the first 50 berets, 25 of them green-colored, like the green berets in the United States, and 25 marooned. Well, the Krapovy, the marooned, they took the route. And Alexander Georgievich Sidorov is deservedly considered the father of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, Special Forces, and the Maroon Berets. The Maroon Beret is a uniform headgear that serves as the highest form of distinction, a symbol of courage, honor, and dignity for military personnel in special and special purpose units of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Maroon is a shade of red that is darker and duller. It was previously used to create elements of military uniforms for army officers in the armed forces of the Russian Empire, who distinguished themselves in their service to their country. At the initial stage, a special program was created which provided for actions in various emergency situations at the Olympic Games, in the case of hostage-taking, in land transportation, in an airplane, in a building, etc. The materials were based on the experience and practical knowledge of the KGB Special Forces, the airborne forces, and foreign anti-terrorist units. At that time, the 9th Company often trained together with the Alpha Group people and even surpassed them in terms of physical training. Intensive training allowed the company to prepare for the Olympics and complete the assigned tasks at a very high level. And they did it. After the calm Olympics in Moscow, where nothing really happened, in October of 1981, the company successfully suppressed the mass riots of the Ossetian Ingush conflict in the city of Orджоникидзе, detaining all the instigators. Then, in December, they carried out an operation to free the hostages at school number 12 in Sarapul, in Udmurtia, that's in Russia, who had been captured by armed deserters. No one was injured. The Ministry of Internal Affairs, well, they decided to move against the KGB. It was a very, very interesting battle, so to say. The long-standing rivalry between the KGB and the Ministry of Internal Affairs escalated into a fierce confrontation in 1982. At the beginning of that year, the mysterious suicide of the first deputy chairman of the KGB, Tsvigun, left the chairman of the KGB, Andropov, in a state of disarray. Later, due to the deteriorating health of Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev, the Minister of Internal Affairs of the USSR, he decided to go all in and leaked a significant amount of compromising evidence of an anti-communist party conspiracy against his opponent. The next step was a major battle between the Krapovые Berety, or Maroon Berets, and Alpha Special Forces in the center of Moscow. On September 10, 1982, with the General Secretary's permission to detain the former head of the KGB, Yuri Andropov, 3 teams using passenger cars set out for the target. The first group of police special forces heading towards the KGB, we're speaking about Maroon Berets, that first group was blocked by members of the Alpha group, who set up roadblocks and disguised themselves as traffic police officers. The situation did not escalate into a shootout, and the conscripts surrendered their weapons. This is not surprising, as the target, anticipating something like this, had planted an agent in the inner circle of the interior minister, in the circle of those whom he trusted. And this guy, the special agent, was in charge of the second capture team, which was also out of the game then. The third Special Forces team was supposed to play a decisive role, but it was attacked by the Chekists. That's the designation for the KGB people. So this group was attacked by the Chekists near the target. Several shots, 9 wounded, and as a result, there was an arrest. The KGB chairman reacted quickly. The spread of information was stopped, and the General Secretary's security was replaced. So it was a power struggle, and Andropov came on top. The death of Leonid Brezhnev and the election of Yuri Andropov as the new head of the Soviet state resolved the issue of competition between the USSR's security agencies. Later, each regiment of the Dzerzhinsky Division operational assignment had its own Spetsnaz, usually based on that 9th Company. They took part in many local conflicts in various regions of the USSR together with Alpha and Wimpel. For example, the Uzbek case in 1984, participation in 1986 in the operation to detain armed bandits and release the aircraft they had hijacked in Ufa, stopping the Armenian pogroms in Sumgait, Azerbaijan, Soviet Socialist Republic in 1988, unblocking Zvartnots airport in Yerevan, which was seized by extremists. In 1989, the release of hostages captured in the detention center Kizela, Perm region, and in the correctional labor colony in the village of Lesnoye, Kirov region. Suppression of the activities of armed formations in Nagorno-Karabakh and Baku. Military operations to rescue civilians, to prevent crimes and eliminate armed formations in the Fergana Valley, in the conflict between Uzbek extremists and Meshetian Turks, and many others. As for the special forces Vitязь and Rus, the events in Fergana prompted the Ministry of Internal Affairs to increase the organizational and staffing structure of the ministry's Special Forces Unit, and in 1989 the Special Forces Unit was reorganized into a battalion which served as the basis for the formation of the elite special forces, Spetsnaz Unit Vitязь, in May of 1991 and Rus in 1994. Since then, the right to wear the maroon beret has been granted only to Special Forces soldiers of the Ministry of Internal Affairs who have reached a certain level of combat and physical training, and who must pass the tests within 1 day in any weather condition, such as full equipped march of at least 10 to 12 kilometers, overcoming a fire and assault obstacle course with the assault of high-rise buildings and the use of special equipment, working with weapons and rapid-fire shooting, as well as wrestling and hand-to-hand combat with 3 changing opponents. Those who pass this rigorous exam are awarded the maroon beret in a ceremonial manner in front of the entire formation, and thus got accepted into the elite group of special forces who had proven themselves to be the best of the best, at least according to some Russian observers of the Spetsnaz forces. This is what I wanted to let you know today, and you can look at my other videos. I've spoken about different Spetsnaz units in different situations, and I will continue to bring you more information. It's an exciting subject, and if you like my research, you can support in the links you find in the description to this channel and video. Please like my videos, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.